if this is going to be the first year that you're going to be running ads and you are in the market, my recommendation is at all times, keep an eye.
What would you be looking at right now in preparation for the Q4 madness?
In terms of preparations, have your campaigns ready. Use this time that we have left to start getting.
Would you basically put money aside on a monthly basis ready for Q4?
We usually recommend clients to put a budget aside of about X amount for the Q4 at least.
So would you put more budget in for November, or would you just keep it a flat increase across the 3 months?
That is in Australia, the States, the UK, Canada as well. So my advice is
hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Seller's Journey podcast. Delighted to be joined again by the amazing Cesar. Cesar, how are you?
Yeah, and got to be here again. How are you, Jan?
Yeah, really well, thank you, really well. I've got a really exciting topic to discuss this afternoon, and it's something I'm really looking forward to kind of getting into. Something that hopefully is really going to help people with the busiest period of the year just on the horizon, excuse the pun. We're going to talk about Q4 prep and what do we need to do in order to make sure that we smash the Q4. So what are the preparations? Where do we start? What do we do now in preparation for Q4? What should we be kind of building towards as we approach Q4? We're just a month to go. And then whilst we're in that kind of busy period, what should we manage differently? How should we kind of approach things and view things? And are there metrics that we should be looking at that we wouldn't necessarily look at in a normal kind of month during the year? So really excited for this topic. It's going to be a bit of a theme on the podcast over the next few weeks. I think it's something that we're really interested in kind of getting lots of people's views on. So let's get into it. So Cesar, I guess to start with, we've talked a lot over the past few weeks about, I guess, kind of new ways in order to kind of really enhance, your kind of Meta and Google performance. We've talked about how to kind of get things going, talked about how to kind of build things up and how to manage things from a day-to-day perspective. We've also talked about lots about AI and the kind of introduction of AI to the kind of advertising space. So I think we've covered quite a lot of ground. So first question, what would you be looking at right now in preparation for the Q4 madness that's just around the corner?
I think from my perspective, it's always the same year, so it is hopefully a little bit predictable. So if you've been in the space, if your e-commerce out more than 1 or 2 years, you already know what's coming. So festivals, organize yourself, same thing as in Amazon pretty much. So be ready, have your budget ready for it, have a very clear understanding of what dates are you going to be pushing for. If Black Friday is going to be big for you, if not, any other big upcoming seasons like gifting, if gifting is really big on your industry as well. So all those things need to be cleared out before the Q4 started. I usually recommend clients to save, to put a small deposit every single month just to be prepared for this season, because here's where the magic comes for e-commerce stores that are ready. So in terms of preparations, have your campaigns ready. Use this time that we have left to start getting some good data to your ads platform. So by the time that we already kick into the big season, we've got more than 30 conversions on each platform, for example, that we can leverage out on creating automated campaigns in both Google and Meta.
Okay, cool. So what we're basically saying then is, I guess, similar to the Amazon A9 algorithm, or A10 algorithm as it is now, it's not just about setting a campaign and seeing it kind of take off from the start. It needs to kind of build up momentum. So what you're basically saying is that needs to start now, or should have already started, so that you can start kind of putting the building blocks in place. Then once Q4 hits, you've got a really solid foundation.
Yep, it's exactly that. So other than Amazon, I feel like Amazon has been evolved towards what Google has been in the last few years. So this is something that in Google and Meta has been a thing for years now. And it is the fact that you do need to prepare, and the more data that you've got, feed the machine learning, the faster and the better results you can get. Obviously, bear in mind that everyone is going to be bidding for the same things over and over again on this season. Everyone is doing the same thing. So planning ahead and putting a lot of budget into it. So the cost per click could be higher, depending if the offer rises more than the demand. So those are the kind of things that we need to be looking into. Also, there's two things that you need to be prepared for. And the first one is to optimize the potential rise on cost, for example, for acquisition. What you can do is have a strategy ready of things like long tail keywords. So those ones whose your competitor probably is not bidding for like efficiently. That's something that you can do as well to take advantage of this in that time period. And the other thing is to optimize your SEO in the merchant center. So everything that you've got should be fully optimized, because we're talking about SEO that usually takes a lot more time on e-commerce space than compared to Amazon. Amazon is a native platform that has everything integrated into it. What we're talking about is actually Shopify store, how to integrate it with Google Ads. So there's a lot of connections and APIs and attributions in between both. So having an optimized merchant center, it's crucial for when the season comes in, because shopping is a massive component of performance on Google, and we just need to be ready for it. And that takes time. So the best moment was yesterday, but the right moment is today.
Yeah, good point. Something I just kind of picked up on there. You mentioned cost per clicks are going to increase. Very, very popular search terms are going to get overcrowded, which is going to push the, cost per click up. You mentioned going for a kind of more niche, longer tail kind of keyword. So I guess I've got two questions on that really. So in Amazon, for example, you would do that research in Helium 10. Is there a tool that you would use to do that outside of that? Is there a tool that you would use that's kind of specific for Google or Meta? And then I guess the second point really was, once you understand the kind of search volumes of the kind of longer tail keywords, how do you then look at what the cost per click is going to be for those longer tail keywords? Because I guess we wouldn't be the only people that would be looking at this strategy. So again, I'm guessing that even the longer tail keywords costs would be inflated as well.
So it really depends on how people behave this year. So for example, you can have a look at the historical data and you can actually see if you've got that, what happened last year. But this year, assuming that everything remains the same because there's not big changes other than the tariffs. So example, that affected Amazon sellers a lot. But in reality, it could happen is if people looking for that product increases more than the people advertising aggressively, then the cost per click might not be inflated. But if it's the other way around, it depends on the industry. If it's something really popular where that everyone wants to chip in today, then it might be this way, it's going to raise the cost per click. But if it's a very stable industry, we might as well see same thing that happened last year. So it really depends. My advice is just have a look at the statistical, historical data, and just based on that, just assume that it's going to happen the same this year. And the second question was, how do I do the keyword research for those specific ones? So there's a bunch of tools. I feel like Google is ones that, and Meta. But Meta, you don't work with keywords. You work with more search intent. But in Google Live, there's a bunch of tools. We've got a full video about how to do keyword research in our YouTube channel. But in reality, there is probably 3 platforms that I use or I recommend people, beginners, to do the research with. The first one is a native platform inside Google Ads. It's called Keyword Planner. So it's free. You can just go to ads.google.com, have an account, and then in the left-hand side, in the planning section, you've got something called Keyword Planner. Okay, in the tools, I just use the search bar on there and just type Keyword Planner, and it's going to copy that for you. It's completely free. It's going to tell you historically what to expect in every month. So if the demand for every keyword is going to expect it to be up or down, and it's going to give you, for example, if you type, Japanese knife on it, it's going to give you order variants and suggested variants and what's the expected monthly search volume, if it's a year-in-year change, if it's positive, negative, if it's competitive or not. So there's plenty of things that you can see.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. If you're short of ideas, you could also, in this stage, you can create a GPT that help you to investigate based on Google data what could be potentially good long tail keywords as well.
Okay.
There's a great way to create a GPT for that. And so we've got into each video a little bit of an example. There's many more things to it. So just bear in mind that even if, for example, you do it, I recommend to do it in Gemini, not in ChatGPT, just because it's native for Google. So the logic is usually the logic is we go by its nature. The third thing that I would recommend to do is explore tools like SEMrush. So SEMrush will be the equivalent to Helium 10. It is a paid subscription tool. It's really good. Its main use is for SEO, but it has a lot of good information about PPC, and you've got like free trials and everything, so you can explore it out.
Okay, that's really cool. So with regards to like, if you're comparing SEMrush with the Google tool that you mentioned, what would be the main kind of difference? Well, like, why would you pay for SEMrush over using the tool that's already set within Google?
I think if you use it correctly, I don't feel that your viewers are selling rockets or something like really complicated. So my advice is just try with Google first, because there's really good data that you can get from there. I feel that the difference will be in the terms of volume and competition, that you can see, for example, organically where your competitors are ranking at the moment and what keywords are they ranking for. So a tool that gives you a better perspective about competition and SEO and positioning, and you can just extract from there some information that is useful for you. But the core of that is everything included in Google Ads already for you. So as long as you understand the keyword planner, you can create a forecast and understand, okay, if my cost per click in the top of the page is between 60 cents and $1.20, then you know that your clicks are going to be in between that. And you can just make a quick calculation. You say on average is 80 cents and my budget is $20 or $50 a day. Therefore, my number of clicks is going to be this one. That's it.
Got it. That's really cool. So basically, I mean, both tools sound really useful, but I guess for starters, you'd probably stick with the Google tool and then maybe progress to SEMrush once you really get a good understanding of the metrics. So yeah, that's really interesting. So in terms of physical actions then, you've got your campaigns kind of really well optimized. You've got your keywords that you want to look at and got a bunch of long tail keywords that you're going to use to try and keep the costs down. You mentioned earlier that you should budget for extra ad spend in Q4. How would you kind of physically do that? Would you basically put money aside on a monthly basis ready for Q4?
I think from the financial perspective, way of seeing things is the best decision, because you forget that money is. So what we usually recommend clients is just to put a budget aside of about X amount. So for example, if their budget is, if they can save at least for these 20% extra. So for example, if your monthly budget is £10,000 at $10,000, that 10 to 20% extra on top for the Q4 at least. I know sometimes people struggle to do this because it's quite significant like amount of money, but just think what you do in the Q4 is going to have probably a lot better repercussions of the Q3 that usually is very slow in most industries. Just think about the benefit that you can get from this.
Okay. And obviously Q4 runs over 3 months, October, November, December. Is there any month that you'd spend more on, or is it just that everything's going to increase by roughly 20% for the duration of that 3 months? Because obviously in November, you've got some really big deal events that I know are kind of originate from Amazon, but will obviously have a knock-on effect certainly in Google. So would you put more budget in for November, or would you just keep it a flat kind of increase across the 3 months?
So no, my advice, obviously, we're talking about Black Friday is Friday, November 28th. So from our experience, that is a massive opportunity in Australia, the States, and the UK, Canada as well. So my advice is try to put it at least November and December. And I would recommend probably to put the extra ad spend, at least 70%, 80% of the extra ad spend on those 2 months. And it depends on the nature of your product. If we're talking about jewelry or something that is for nature is a gift, so by nature try to put it a little bit more in December. But if it's something that people buy for themselves, that they want to buy but they're waiting for the right moment to buy it, I don't know, I want to buy a new camera, maybe that's something that in November works a lot better than in December. I think the idea is to look at the past year and just try to find anything that happens in there. So for example, if for you the cost per acquisition was a lot better on Black Friday compared to Boxing Day or any day in Christmas or whatever, then probably allocate more to November and just play around with the data that you already have. If you're new to the space, my recommendation is just go to Google Trends, which is a free tool that you can use, and you could search term of your product and it's going to tell you the seasonality. So how interest people is from 0 to 100 in that specific keyword. So for example, again, if you sell Japanese knives, it's going to tell you, and you just select like the past 5 years, you can see the spikes on trends and you say, okay, my keyword is a lot more popular for December than November. Okay, it's not a night as well. Just put it in December. But if it's the other way around, then just put it in November.
Interesting. Okay, that's really cool. And then on Amazon, you tend to see this really kind of strong period in November. Obviously, October tends to build up, see a really strong period in November. And then December, again, you know, you see a bit of a kind of an uptick. And I guess it's really where people are waiting for Black Friday deals. Is the product that they want to buy going to feature in a Black Friday deal? And then if it doesn't, then obviously they go ahead and buy the product in December. What is really, really, really important on Amazon, and I'm wondering whether this is the same in the kind of Shopify world, is delivery time. So do you get to a point where everything just drops off a cliff because nobody's going to get, or people think that they might not get the product before Christmas? I mean, on Amazon, they do have a little badge that kind of says guaranteed delivery before Christmas or something along those lines. And once that badge drops off, you do see quite a catastrophic drop in sales because people are no longer last minute shopping. Is that a thing in Shopify?
Same thing. So Shopify, WooCommerce, anything you've got your website, they know, like every e-commerce owner knows the drill about the shipping delay when it comes to this. So they should have a warning for clients. They're very clear about the partner. So it's critical that you choose a partner that has the capabilities to help you in terms of shipping, and just very, very clear about your delivery times. People understand this. So in your ad, for example, or in the landing pages that you've got, you can clearly state, like, if you want to receive it before Christmas, then shop by this day.
Yeah.
Got something that you can clearly state. So remember that the difference between Google, e-commerce stores and Amazon is that you can do whatever you want with your page. You can put one banner in here, one banner in here. You can put a tag photo on your photo. You can like a caption saying order before this to give it in Christmas. But you can edit everything in the design to make it very clear for your customers.
Wonderful. And then in terms of advertising strategy, what happens once you get past that period of quick delivery or delivery by Christmas and you start to see things dropping off? What do you change in the ad strategy?
So it depends on the industry again. But what I've seen, for example, in clothing, since you want to change the season after that, then you might as well just put something you can put into clearance and just create like a separate tab for sales. And you put like an after Christmas campaign where you just drop everything to 50% off or 20% off depending on your margin. But obviously, if you've got a lot of clothes that you're not going to be selling anymore, important thing is to know that even if Christmas passes, like if we're in January, that's still a cold season, but people rarely buy clothes for winter in January unless they're going to go skiing, for example, or go to a resort up in the mountains. So I think just think with logic based on your product like life cycle in terms of that, not in terms of the growth, but in terms of how people buy what you're selling to them. Just plan ahead.
Got it.
So I'm going to share my screen just real quick. We'll just show you 2 minutes the tool, then actual tool that I was telling you about Google.
Perfect.
Just give me 1 second. Can you see my screen, right?
Yeah.
For example, if you're here to Google Trends, you put Japanese knives, select United States, past 5 years, and leave this as it is. It tells you clearly the seasonality in the past 5 years. And here you could see that, for example, November 29, which is Black Friday, is already, or we've got the biggest peak of them all. You see, so it's more important, at least last year, way more important Japanese knives than Christmas.
Wow.
You see, so
It's really interesting.
from 0 to 100, and it tells me here, listen, this is how important it's going to be awards last year. And here was a little bit higher as well. And here was quite the opposite. But if you see 4 out of 5, it's more important beginning of November, like the end of November, than the actual Christmas period. This is something that is going to tell you, okay, people is buying that for themselves.
Yeah, it's true. Yes. So there's more of people thinking about the Christmas period, and, you know, people tend to do a lot more cooking, etc. So they might be kind of preparing for that for themselves. But that's really interesting. So you can get that pretty much, that information's available for any kind of product or any search term, is it?
Yep. Any search term, even if you sell services, like it's available for you.
Incredible.
And you can compare it to other words. So for example, if you are selling, let's say, I don't know, knives and spoons, you can actually put them both and it's going to tell you, compare them both one against the other.
Wow,
So you
really cool.
okay, it's more important for me to put more money into spoons rather than to put it into knives. Therefore, you can allocate a budget accordingly to what you think is going to perform better.
Wow, that's really cool. I love it. All right. Just conscious of time, Caesar, I know you're a busy man, but Just one more question, if I may. You mentioned that when you've got a Google campaign running, so through Shopify for your own website, you're not kind of under the restrictions that Amazon give you with regards to imagery. So what would you do differently in terms of imagery for this period that would help to increase the conversion rates?
In that sense, I have to say that Google does have policy requirements when it comes to images. So the best practice is the same as Amazon. So a white background, like nothing on it, that usually gets approved quite easily. What you can't put is like 10% off sign, like really big next to your image, because they don't accept this kind of labels. It could be approved, you get me wrong, like we have examples where we put a couple of tags and it has come clear and it actually delivers a really good result. It's more about like when people click on the product or click on the actual link, it's going to take them to the landing page. On the landing page, there you can do whatever you want, almost. And so you have to put like the same price as is advertised on the ads. There's a couple of things that you need to be matching. But for example, you could put that information in that big disclaimer, like just below, I don't know, wherever you want. In Shopify, you can just even put it like on a top banner, bright red, to say like, hey, remember to buy this before this date if you want to get it before Christmas.
Yeah, really cool. Are there any other kind of hints and tips that you'd offer people just in the kind of lead up to Q4? Is there anything that we've missed that we haven't spoken about?
I don't think so. Obviously, there is many more things that you could do in terms of researching. Obviously, this is quite a nice tip that I recommend you to do. If this is going to be the first year that you're going to be running ads and you are in the market, my only recommendation is at all times, keep an eye on your competitors. What are they advertising? How are they advertising? Because chances are they're going to switch off those ads eventually after the season, and you might as well not be able to learn for next year what was the best practice. So in this case, my recommendation is just keep an eye on them in the meantime that the ads are active for your competitors. If it's before Black Friday, just be very attentive. Make a quick search about them. Use the Google Ads transparency tool so you are able to see what other competitors are doing, and just try to take notes of what's working best. If you can implement something that makes logic and you didn't think of and it applies to your business, do it. But if you just want to save that information for next year because you're out of time, you don't have enough resources to produce the content or to produce a specific landing page or to include a new product that your competitors are doing, just take note, put a pin on it and save it to next year, because life is not that unpredictable. Like if another pandemic doesn't hit us or something like this, chances are next year is going to be fairly similar to this year, unless you sell things like AI. If your products are tangible, physical, it's going to be predictable, most likely.
Incredible. Yeah, that's amazing advice. And I guess what you're doing there really, especially as you mentioned, if it's your first kind of Q4 campaign, I guess by checking out other competitors, you're benefiting from their years of experience because they're going to be applying all of their learnings into their kind of campaigns. And obviously by going in and looking at and learning from them, it's going to give you really great insights. So yeah, really appreciate that, Cesar. Amazing piece of advice. Cesar, always a massive pleasure to have you on. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge and information on how to kind of excel in Q4. I'm really kind of looking forward to seeing all of this kind of come into action, and hopefully everybody that listens and watches this podcast gets a lot from it as I did.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here back, and thank you for inviting me over, and thank you very much. You take care.
No worries. We'll see you next time. Cheers, Cesar.
See you next time.